morning. This is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, your uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind.
Forgot to turn on the camera.
Well.
Sorry.
Well, good morning and hello, kids, and welcome to season 4 and episode number 464 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show.
464.
So, yes, here on the Crier Media Network. Today, recording day is Friday. It's Friday. Yay. September 6th, 2024. And it's going to be a lovely day here at the Beaver Lodge. I'm your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver. And with me, as always, is my wonderful and delightful friend, Mr. Grizzly. A big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Peppermaster, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and CanadianTarot.com. And Mr. Grizzly, again, that's a lovely color on you. How are you doing today, sir?
Thank you, sir. I'm really chill this morning. Like very, very relaxed. I think I actually slept well for the first time in I don't know how long.
Congrats.
I believe I slept right through the night from the time I climbed into bed until the time Lola woke me up at 5:30 to shake her head and climb into bed beside me. So, yeah, I'm feeling really good right now. And this is good because I have a lot on my plate today. I have meetings I have to attend. I have some people I have to touch base with. I may have work lined up. Maybe. I'm not sure yet. And I have a lot of housework to do as well as set up a printer. I bought a new printer the other day, which, seems like a silly thing to do because I have one, but the one I have needs new ink every 2 weeks, it seems. Okay. I haven't used it as a printer in a few years. I just use it as a scanner. And it actually has a fax function, but I haven't had a landline phone since 1993. Okay. So I've never used the fax. But I ended up ordering one of those printers with, the refillable tanks.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, so this one has, I looked at the one that Shaq sells, and then I looked at this one, and this one actually will print more color pages, 7,700 before you need to refill.
Mm-hmm.
Versus 5,000. So I'm like, okay. And it was on sale. Felt like I'd buy that. Here's the thing. So I can print stuff like this.
Yeah,
I can print because I just ordered sheets of pre-cut 3x3 panels that I can start printing and distributing because I've been putting them all around town lately, right? But those are like $45 they work out to about $1 a sticker, which is kind of expensive.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to wait about a week to get them from the printer. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to do it at home because $200. It was $200 tax in for the printer, and I won't have to swap out the ink for about 2 years, best case scenario. and I can buy ink for, I think it'll cost me about $100. So you average that out over the 2-year time frame, and
Yeah.
pretty cheap when you consider.
Yep, indeed.
So yeah, I'll be able to, and I can get iron-ons for T-shirts as well.
Okay, good stuff.
So yeah, I'll be able to
Good
start
stuff.
printing more product for us.
All right, great stuff. All right, kids. If you saw the episode description, it's about everything that's going on with Tenet. For those who haven't read it, I'll read it into the show. Mr. Grizzly was like, "Oh boy,
Yeah.
where to begin?"
Where to begin?
Apparently, Tenet Media was backed by Russian money. The DOJ, the Department of Justice in the USA, just indicted employees of Russian state-controlled media outlet. They deployed nearly $10 million to publish RT. That was Russia television. It used to be everywhere on our, everywhere. It used to be on our TV dial. I'm not sure if it still is Canada. I know the United States got rid of it.
Yeah, I don't know if it's still here. You can certainly watch it online if you choose to.
Yes. So RT, Russian television, curated content, which garnered millions of views through a Tennessee-based online content creation company called Tenet Media. This is from Merrick Garland, the Attorney General of the United States. Quote, "The Justice Department has charged 2 employees of RT, a Russian state-controlled media outlet, in a $10 million scheme to create and distribute content to U.S. audiences with hidden Russia government messaging," said Attorney General Merrick B. Garland. "The Justice Department will not tolerate attempts by authoritarian regime to exploit our country's free exchange of ideas in order to covertly further its own propaganda efforts, and our investigation into this matter remains ongoing. Covert attempts to sow division to trick Americans into unwittingly consuming foreign propaganda represents attacks on our democracy," said FBI Director Christopher Wray. "Today's actions show that as long as foreign adversaries like Russia keep engaging in hostile influence campaigns, they are going to keep running into the FBI. We will continue to do everything we can to expose the hidden hand of foreign adversaries like Russia and disrupt their efforts to meddle in our free and open society." I would like to be able to go into this further right away and give you a hot take. I can't. I really can't.
I don't have enough information to really form a full opinion. I mean, obviously, Russia bad, Russia money to distribute propaganda bad. Of course, that's part of the take for sure. But there's just so much information coming in right now that I've not had a chance to sift through all of it to really come up with a coherent description of what is going on. So we're going to continue to work on this as this evolves, because it's huge. I mean, it is massive.
Yeah. Now, there appears to be some Canadian connection.
Mm-hmm. To what degree, we don't know.
Yeah, but in terms of the structure of this thing, there seems to be some Canadian connection. And there appears that there might have been some Canadians who benefited. All our
Warren Chen, just to name a couple.
All the usual suspects may have benefited. It appears from, if we're listening to what's going on in. See, our problem with bringing you more is that we don't know. We're not journalists, and we don't know how much is rumor, how much is speculation, how much is based on fact. A lot of people have insider tips or are writing claiming that they have insider tips and insider knowledge, but nobody's actually showing any documentation.
I do have the indictment. I do have the indictment.
Yes, everything that's in the indictment. Yeah.
But here's the thing. It's like we don't know how it relates to Canada right now. We don't know to what degree, because they don't name anybody directly in that sphere. So that's the thing that we're, I mean, according to the indictment, the Tennessee company's founders, that's Tenet Media, work with Kalishnikov and Afanasyeeva, whom they knew were Russian, to recruit influencers to make videos that were published across YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and X. The indictment says its nearly 2,000 YouTube videos amassed more than 16 million views, which tracks with public statistics on Tenet's Media YouTube channel. Once the company launched in the fall of 2023, Kalishnikov Afanasyeeva were involved in the company's day-to-day operations. Kalishnikov was introduced to employees as an outside editor, and according to the indictment, monitored U.S. Company One's internal communications and edited content published by U.S. Company One without disclosing that he was an RT employee. So there's a lot of greasiness happening here, and we don't have the full story.
Okay. Now, what we do know, and I'm basing this on Rachel Gilmore, and we'll play you something that she has done. It offers a good little primer to sort of get an idea of what it is, but it seems that right now, one of the people named in this is someone named Lauren Chen.
Yes.
And Aaron O'Toole follows Lauren Chen. Andrew Scheer follows Lauren Chen. Pierre Poliev follows Lauren Chen, as do Doug Ford and Anita Anand. So yeah, it's kind of, and the Anita Anand in there is kind of weird.
Yeah.
It's like one of those things are not like the others. But yeah,
Was that one? Is she just monitoring? I don't know.
Well, exactly. But so, how do they know to follow Lauren Chen?
Right.
Because this type of stuff is not my natural interest, so that's one of the reasons why it's not my field of expertise. All this international intrigue and spy stuff, and
we can't ignore it though.
Like this. No, we can't ignore it. But all the David Wallace stuff, right? It's like it's fascinating, it's intriguing, but I have absolutely no background in it, right? It's like not even enough to really ask really intelligent questions. So
my background is watching every James Bond film ever made. So
exactly. So. I have the same question with regard to how did Goldie Gamari know to take Tommy Robinson's phone call? Because I hadn't heard of Lauren Chen until yesterday.
Yeah, I'd heard her name before, but I didn't really know anything about her.
Yeah. So Laura Southern I've heard of.
Yes.
Yeah. And, Cat Canada I've heard of.
Yeah.
Like this. But again, the website, I never even heard of the company Tenet before.
No. But I mean, there's lots of things that we don't hear about because it's not on our radar, and yet there's like money coming in. Yeah. Tim Pool was getting $100,000 a month.
Yeah, and basically what happened is apparently there was this $10 million, and I guess there was somebody that was promising people, like this: if you record X number of videos that have this type of content, and all the content seems to be pro-Russia. Because we will give you like $400,000 to do, 4 videos a week or something. And some people turned around and said, well, hey, that's great. I'll do that. Like it's a good deal. Not thinking, does this sound a little too good to be true? Because what is it about you that is worth it that I would pay you for? Like if somebody came up to me and said, Douglas, I'm going to give you $400,000, in short period to do like 4 videos a week on something. I wouldn't be going, wow, I've just made it big. I'd be going like,
I could really use the money. But...
I know that listen, I have a high estimation of myself. I have a healthy self-esteem. I'm not sure that my opinions are worth $400,000 US for 4 videos a week, especially if I'm being told what it is I should be saying. But it's not coming organically, coming from me. So you have a lot of people that were involved with this. Now, it seems that the Justice Department documents are saying that some of these things were, people didn't know that all this stuff was going on in the background, but the light also didn't go on. Like, wow, this deal sounds too good to be true. It's more like, ooh, somebody wants to throw some money my way for me to do certain things. What's the worst that can happen? Sure, Mama didn't raise no fool. I'll take the money, and and I will present myself in public as being this type of person because, well, I'm going to be cray for pay.
I can't do that.
Yeah. Again, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And now all these people are sort of lawyering up. You have Tim Pool that was like yesterday had this sort of like, he's been like, even his name, like I know that he's well known.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so not into that I didn't even know him.
I've heard his name a number of times. He's been around for a while doing cyber journalism, I guess.
Yeah.
But I don't know enough about him to make let's try that again, Paul, to have an informed opinion. But
So
I haven't read anything good about the man.
Yeah.
So.
Well, exactly. Now, here's what he's sort of putting out now.
Just a sec here. Upon reflection, I now understand that Ukraine is our greatest ally. As the breadbasket of Europe and a peace-loving people, we cannot allow the fascist Russians to continue their crimes against humanity. We must redouble our efforts and provide an additional $200 billion at once. That's an about face from what he said as little as, 3 or 4 days ago?
Yeah. So it seems to me, I guess, Dean said, quote, upon reflection equals I got taken Russian money.
I got caught taking Russian money.
Yeah. For me, it was sort of like, now that my pants and skivs are around my ankles, I've had a moment of clarity.
Yeah.
So, and now the whole thing as well is the narrative that he seems to be really diving into is this one here, Mr. Grizzly. Now, Dean seems to be more aware of like the inside out type stuff than I do. But this here?
You'll need to blow that up a bit.
Okay, I'll need to blow that up a bit.
There we go. Tim sure is going all in on the I was an unwitting victim narrative. Smart move.
That's my comment.
That's your comment. And if you want to click on the show more so I can read the rest there.
Yeah.
So smart move. Make sure you tell them you met with Russian operative and knew they were foreign investors when you negotiated your contract with the Turkish business guy. Should be fine. Tim Pool's statement. I have been contacted by the FBI as a potential victim of crime. The FBI believes I have information relevant to an ongoing criminal investigation, and I have requested a voluntary interview. I will be offering my assistance in this matter.
All right. So Dean is the comment that says, make sure that you tell them you met with a Russian operative and knew they were foreign investors when you negotiated your contract with the quote unquote Turkish business guy. So there seems to have been an intermediary that dealt with the talent to sort of try to create a level of, I guess, plausible deniability or distance or whatnot. But yes, to me, that's sort of, okay, you know what? Once again, because it's always the victim narrative with these people. I was an unwitting victim. I had no idea that this was going on. Again, nothing struck me as strange that somebody wanted to give me $100,000 for my
content that really derided.
I really believed I was worth that much money.
They wanted me to create content that put down Ukraine and told people that, fire people up and say we shouldn't be giving money to Ukraine, who was invaded by a foreign nation.
And now, upon further reflection,
I realize I was wrong.
Yeah,
you took the money.
I bet you did.
You took the money, Tim. You took the money because you sold yourself out.
Right.
You greedy, stupid little man.
There are no shortcuts.
Nope.
All right, so let's play the Rachel thing.
Yep.
It's a little, like I said, a little primer. And literally,
Primer?
that's about all. Yeah, I always called it primer, but I keep on hearing everybody on TV calling it a primer. So I'm guessing I was mispronouncing it. That's like controversy rather than controversy. It seems I've been pronouncing it wrong my entire life.
I'm going to go with primer because you always prime the pump. You put primer
on
before you paint. So primer. Anyway, maybe if they're... let's just play it.
Okay, let's talk about it. Because it looks like a whole bunch of popular right-wing influencers and content creators were allegedly duped into taking eye-popping paychecks to make videos that echo Russian propaganda and other right-wing talking points. That's according to a brand new indictment from the Department of Justice, which alleges that employees of state-owned Russia Today, with the help of the founders of the company I'm going to tell you about, concealed the company's links to Russia from the individual creators, including Tim Pool, Lauren Southern, Benny Johnson, and Dave Rubin. If you actually read the indictment, they were hilariously bad at at hiding it. More on that in a sec. Now, the indictment doesn't actually name anyone, but it left one big clue. They said the US company at the center of all of this describes itself as, quote, a network of heterodox commentators that focus on Western political and cultural issues. That's the exact same language as this website, Tenet, which leads you to the founders, Lauren Chen and her husband, Liam Donovan, who the indictment describes as allegedly texting each other about getting money from the Russians. Fun fact about Lauren, 2 former and 1 current Conservative Party leader all follow her on social media, so here's hoping they haven't been mainlining Russian propaganda. Anyways, apparently Tenet got $9.7 million from the Russian-backed RT, and of that, $8.7 million went to the production companies of 3 commentators. One of them, who was either Dave Rubin or Benny Johnson, was getting $400,000 per month for 4 weekly videos. So I don't know about you guys, but I might have some questions if someone was offering me that much money to make videos for them. But when these commentators allegedly asked about who they would be working for, a man named Edward Gregorian, who the DOJ says doesn't actually exist, one of them was sent a hilarious fake resume for the guy. And out of all of this, what he was most concerned about was apparently the resume's reference to social justice. Not the fact that, as the indictment details, if you Google the guy's name and the bank he apparently worked for, nothing comes up. Or the fact that he once joined a meeting at the correct scheduled time if he was based in Moscow, not Paris, like he said. Anyways, these guys are saying they're victims in all of this, and the Russians had no say in what they actually produced. Though the indictment does detail an instance where the Russians, admittedly behind a fake identity, asked one of the other creators to say an attack in Russia was actually because of Ukraine and the US, and they were happy to cover it. But speaking personally, if Russians thought my content worked as propaganda, even without their editorial input, so much so that they offered me hundreds of thousands of dollars, I'd probably ask myself some questions about my content. What do you think of all this?
I mean, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? Somewhere along the way, some people should have asked some questions.
It's just
Like, darlings, just listen, we're trying to make it in this business too. But we're not that special, and neither are you.
no.
Like, really,
Well, and
not
we're
that special. I doubt. Listen, $100,000 for 4 videos a month.
yeah.
Because, like, that's. It's hard to make that much money on video online without taking your clothes off.
You think?
Or interacting with another person while your clothes are off. It's like, and unless you're Neil deGrasse Tyson, I'm
Yeah.
not sure I want to pay $100,000 for 4 couple of minute snippets about what's going on in your mind. I mean, if we're talking value for money.
Well, I mean,
I'm just. Now, I understand everybody wants to be the next Joe Rogan,
yeah, I get it.
who got like a huge contract with Sirius and
400
whatnot.
million or something.
Yeah,
like
and
that.
I guess that makes people think that this is just the going rate.
Yeah.
This is my sign that I've made it, right? It's like
I'm special.
It's when you go from being an extra in a movie to having a supporting role, and all of a sudden you see the bump in your paycheck. You know, it's like, ooh, maybe I would like some leading roles because this pays well. But yeah, honey, no.
Well, I mean, and let's connect some dots here, right? Rebel News.
Yes.
Tucker Carlson asked Rebel News reporter if Western sanctions against Russia are working.
Now, Tucker Carlson's on that list. There's
Yes.
basically, it's all the usual suspects that you would expect. There's this graph that's going on, like this. No Canadians are on that one. So, like I said, for the Canadian connection, it's like, isn't it interesting that they are following? Isn't it interesting? Isn't it interesting that this person appeared on shows by these people? So, is it likely if they were asked to be a guest on this show because they were also in the same network? So who's a useful idiot? Who was in on it? Who's like, all that is really murky, which is why I'm like this. And the only reason I've mentioned Cat Canada is because her name seems to be coming on a lot. And there are video clips of her on some of the shows, and apparently her Twitter feed has gone dark.
Yes. Well,
As has Candace Perkins, by the way.
yeah, interesting, eh?
Yes.
So here's an article from Press Progress from June 12th, 2018. Here's how we start tying things together. Ezra Levant's Rebel Media is currently in Russia filming pro-Putin propaganda videos. Rebel Media personality travels to St. Petersburg, praises Vladimir Putin as an ally of the global far right. Rebel Media's Katie Hopkins filming Russian propaganda videos in St. Petersburg. St. Petersburg, yes, St. Petersburg. In one recent video shot on the streets of St. Petersburg, the far-right Rebel Media personality tells viewers Putin is an ally of the global far-right, pointing out Kremlin rubles have helped finance the rise of far-right parties across Europe. I do wonder about this idea of Putin being our enemy, Hopkins says, noting that he supported Marine Le Pen with loans and he supported Viktor Orban in Hungary. Perhaps Putin is not the monster we've made him out to be. He absolutely is the monster. He's funding directly with stolen money 99% of the time far-right individuals who Marine Le Pen, France just said, get that witch out of here. She gone. Viktor Orban, who's constantly being praised by who? Trump. Like,
yeah.
So, and this goes back to 2018. So this is not brand new. The DOJ indictment came out just recently, citing Tenet Media. That is brand new. But this goes back a long ways. Putin has been doing this. He's trying to destabilize democracy around the world.
Putin didn't become the world's richest man by earning the money.
No. Oh, and it's rumored, and I heard this rumor from people who are literally in the know, said he's probably worth about 3 or 4 trillion. All the Russian billionaire oligarchs, it's not their money.
No, they're holding his money for him
in
case something happens to him, which is why they keep on falling out windows.
Yes.
Or downstairs, because
it's
all of a sudden Putin needs the money.
It's all his money. All of it. So all of those Russian oligarchs, all those Russian billionaires that own NBA teams and Premier League teams that have suddenly sold stuff off or fallen out of a window. Russian oligarchs fall out of a lot of windows. It's strange how that
incredibly clumsy bunch.
Yeah. Maybe they should, put safety latches on the windows or something, because it just seems to be strange to me.
Grip tape on the bottom of their shoes.
Maybe bars on the windows or a safety screen.
Yeah. So that's about all we have, to be totally honest on this.
Yeah.
I hopefully will be able to listen to other shows with people who have better in-depth knowledge. There are shows that I watch where people are better sourced and really focus on justice and sort of crime sorting and all that intrigue and that type of stuff. So hopefully I will learn more over the course of the week and be able to bring you a little bit more reliable information and information that I can think about a little bit and come up with something intelligent. Because on this type of thing, the hot take, it's the same thing as when we had the foreign interference allegations come up. Oh, who's a traitor? Who's not a traitor? Are you a traitor? Or do we have traitors like this? And all the things are swirling and whatnot. And it's like, nobody knows because nobody's talking.
Well,
and the documents are not being released.
So one of the things I saw earlier today, I'm going to read you a quote in a second here, but one of the things I saw earlier today and again last night was all these people coming out and saying, well, what about China helping the left? I'm like, there's no evidence to back that up, number one. And number two, why would China want the left in power? Because China is a dictatorship, basically. It's not a democracy, even though it's called the People's Republic. It's not a republic.
Right.
Number one. And number two, all these folks saying, well, what about the left in China? I'm like, you have been duped into believing that lie by Russian propagandists because they've been pouring this into your head for years, and you got suckered. You got played. Because look at all of these people coming out of the woodwork to backtrack on their statements and things they've been saying for years. How soon before Tucker Carlson is in a perp walk? That one I really want to see.
Yeah, apparently he's actually making videos now, specifically for Russia, for Russian state TV or something.
Yeah. He'll move to Russia in a heartbeat to avoid prison.
Oh, yeah. Kit PNC Bio, I see your comment here. If you look around YouTube, Matt Bender of the Minority Report figured out who all the unnamed commentators are using the view counts. If you happen to have a link to that, if you can send it to us, and I will look at it over the weekend. That would be really great. Thanks.
Yeah, you can send it to the Gmail address if you want.
All right. So
I have a quote here, though, for just quickly, 1 second. It's from the Honorable Dominic LeBlanc, Minister of Public Safety, Democratic Institutions, and Intergovernmental Affairs. He issued the following statement. I commend the United States for its recent decisive actions against individuals allegedly involved in Russian influence operations aimed at undermining democratic processes. I also condemn in the strongest term the attempts by Russian state-owned media entity RT to spread disinformation, influence election outcomes, undermine democracy and rules-based international order, and engage in information operations and cyber incidents against Western targets. And here's the part of the quote that I really enjoy. Canada has been working in close cooperation with the U.S. and other allies on this serious matter.
Yes.
While we are unable to comment on ongoing investigations, we are united in confronting Russia's aggression and subversion against democratic societies, and we will not hesitate to take any actions necessary to hold Russian threat actors to account. Any Canadians who illegally assist in Russia's persistent attempts to use disinformation, criminal and covert activities, and corruption to undermine our sovereignty and democratic processes will face the full force of Canadian law. There are people in this country right now who are running scared.
Yes. And there's been some comments also that I've seen on Twitter. It's like, what do you think are the odds that, given that, as Minister LeBlanc said, Canada's continuing to work, that Justin Trudeau and the Liberals had a bug put in their ear. Somehow that stuff was going on, just like the bug was put in their ear about the government of India maybe having interfered in the Conservative leadership race, to which Pierre Poilievre stood up and said, well, took India's side, until we got much more information. And then there was another DOJ indictment in the United States for similar things, which was done thanks to our help. That the Prime Minister, when he stood up in the House of Commons and made those comments, he wasn't doing it without any information or just because. Because a couple of weeks later, the DOJ indictment dropped down, but not before the government of Australia and the government of several other countries saying, it's true. We provided some information to help with that through the Five Eyes thing. So what are the odds that if this company had some ties somehow to something going on in Canada, that the DOJ would not be picking up the phone and calling Canada sometime in all of this before the indictment goes public? Well, so there might be a reason why Justin Trudeau has been saying nothing while PP has been running his mouth.
Well, and also, so, the other day when we said, oh, Jugmeat, what are you doing? You just shot yourself in the foot.
Right before.
Yeah. Here's where the story changes for me, right? Now, this is just speculation on my part. Because Jugmeat has NSICOP clearance, as does the Prime Minister and Elizabeth May, and Bloc Leader, whose name is escaping me at the moment. All of those individuals has NSICOP clearance. Pierre Poilievre does not. Why doesn't he have it? Because he says he can say whatever he wants until... Is it possible, is it entirely possible that Jugmeat Singh knows something that Pierre Poilievre does not? And as a result, he decided, you know what? I got a really good shot at winning something, so I'm just going to end my agreement and move on. And when the election comes, I'm going to do well. Pure speculation on my part, because I do not see any other reason for him to do what he did. In all honesty. I mean, their numbers aren't good. They have less seats than the Bloc. They're the fourth party. It makes no sense to do what he did. Unless, of course, he knows something that we don't. And that an indictment is coming.
PNC Bio goes, these morons have been spouting anti-Ukraine propaganda since before the Russians bothered to pay for it. It's all in the indictment. And perhaps maybe that's why they were chosen or approached.
Well, and this is, from the Ministry of FAFO on the Twitter. Exactly. Maybe Jugmeat knew the hammer was going to drop on PP. And this is my speculation. I could be way off base. But I mean, you do the paint by numbers, and it's like if you look at the picture and you go, why the hell would you do this? And then this story comes out the next couple of days. It's like, oh, now it's, the plot has thickened. Now it is interesting.
See, because the video came out for Jagmeet Singh, I believe after this was, the DOJ dropped the indictment.
Was it? Was it? Okay.
I think so. But as you will learn in what's to come, put a pin in that. Because when things drop are not necessarily indicative of when things were made.
Right. That's correct.
I'm just showing a little thigh right now.
Yes.
All right, Mr.
This is a live airing right now at the moment.
Yes.
Well, if you're watching us right now, if you're watching us later, well, so the live has ended. You'll know that, though, because you can click on it and see that the live stream has ended and rewatch the program.
So, shifting on slowly, taking a step to the left. It's just a jump to the left. Now we talk about Jagmeet. Okay, Jagmeet Singh released the video, then had the press conference, which is kind of interesting because normally you have the press conference and then the video comes out.
He did it in the reverse for some strange bizarre reason.
For some strange reason. Mr. Grizzly, I'd like you to play the beginning of this up until about 8 minutes and a half.
Okay.
So this was him coming up to do his press conference. And the only thing I will say to preface this is that it looks more and it sounds more like an election campaign kickoff. The problem is that that's not, I mean, if we go the full way, it's not until over a year from now.
Right.
It seems like a very weird time to be doing this because the effect of it certainly will not be remembered a year and something from now, especially given how fast the news cycle moves.
Yes.
And if it's not that, if the reality is, because this is the reality that we're going now or sometime this year, probably not. The reality that Jagmeet Singh and the NDP will decide we just can't vote for this next budget, so that we will have a June election-ish rather than an October election-ish. However, is probably quite likely.
Well, so I don't know if you've seen this from Theo Moudakis. I'll put it on the screen right now. It's the new Conservative Party flag. It's the Russian flag with the Conservative Party logo in the middle of it. You know, I mean,
if the shoehorn fits.
Yeah, it's let's watch this thing from Jagmeet, and I'll be back in a minute after I grab some coffee.
All right.
We take you live now to Bloor and Dundas, where NDP leader Jagmeet Singh is discussing his decision to back out of the deal to prop up the Liberal government until the election. Let's listen in.
Thanks so much. Thank you. Friends, Canada is a place where we take care of our neighbors, where we teach our kids the values of compassion and kindness. This used to be a country where working hard earned you a good life, where a paycheck from a decent job got you a home that fit your family and a fridge full of groceries. Generations of Canadians fought to build a healthcare system for everyone, where the size of your wallet should never determine the quality of care you get or who gets care the fastest. For millions of Canadians, the Canadian dream is fading. They're working harder than ever and falling farther behind. So many have lost hope. Hope that they'll ever be able to buy a home, that healthcare will be there for them in time, or that they'll ever be able to retire. But they see the billionaire class is better off than ever Grocery giants, land developers, and corporate landlords are raking in record profits, big CEO bonuses, and still getting government handouts. Greed is not a Canadian value. Justin Trudeau has proven again and again that he will never stand up to the elites, that he will always cave to corporate greed. And Canadians pay for it every time we pay our bills, buy our groceries, or pay the rent. Justin Trudeau has let Canadians down. And Canadians are done with his endless disappointment and delay. Trudeau's Liberals can't deliver change. They are too weak and too selfish to stop Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives. And let me be clear, Conservative cuts would take things from bad to worse. Pierre Poilievre will take from workers, from retirees, from young people, from patients, from families, in order to give more to big corporations and wealthy CEOs. He will pour fuel on the fire of corporate greed. It will be a free-for-all for the rich and powerful, with no one standing between the greedy giants and the rest of us. He will cut and gut Medicare as we know it. Not only will he cancel dental care, which is now giving millions of families and seniors the opportunity to get the dental care they need, he will end pharmacare and tear down healthcare brick by brick until the only way you will get the care you need is if you can afford to pay for it. As we have just seen, he would rather fight with nurses than hire more of them. Everything Pierre Poilievre does is designed to take from you and give to the ultra-wealthy. He will sacrifice our kids' future so that big oil companies can make even more money, so that rich CEOs can make higher profits off the backs of working people. There's a battle ahead of us, the fight for the Canada of our dreams, the fight against Pierre Poilievre and his callous agenda of conservative cuts, the fight to restore hope, and the promise that working hard gets you a good life. I'm ready for that fight. Yesterday, I notified the Prime Minister that I have ripped up the supply and confidence agreement. And when the next election comes, my friends, I am running to be the next Prime Minister of this country. Thank you. Thank you. Because, friends, in the next federal election, Canadians will get to choose between Poilievre's conservative cuts or the hopeful future that New Democrats can bring. The future Poilievre wants is mean and small, but Canadians are not. I've heard from you, I've heard from so many of you, that life has become too exhausting and too expensive. It doesn't have to be this way. I want to tell you that it's okay to have hope. Hope that Canada's middle class will once again thrive together. Hope that this generation and the next will be able to afford a home of their own. Hope that we can stop grocery greed from ripping you off and bring down prices. Hope that healthcare will be there when you and your family need it. Like many of you, all my life I've been told it can't be done. Cynics will say Canada has never had an NDP government, it's not going to happen. They will attack us for taking on the powerful, for getting in the way of big corporations ripping you off. The attacks have already started by self-serving politicians like Pierre Poilievre, who won't do anything for someone else unless he benefits. But Canadians aren't selfish or cynical. We believe in lifting each other up, not tearing each other down. We're a nation of people who take care of our neighbors. We're a nation of builders. We're a nation of believers. We will not let them tell us it can't be done.
Okay. I think that's quite enough of that.
Well, there's a couple more. I wanted to go to 8:30, but
Oh, okay. Sorry. My apologies. I can go back.
Yep.
Just bear with me for a second.
I just wanted to finish what he said in English.
Oh, okay. All right. Hang on. I thought he was finished. Here.
Because if we are together, nothing is impossible. Woo! Big corporations and wealthy CEOs have had their government. It's the people's time now.
I think guys can we can stop. I think he's going into French now.
Le Canada.
Yeah. So, and then keep that handy.
Yeah.
Because we'll be going to the Q&A session after. Now, what Jagmeet Singh is clearly trying to do is trying to ride what's going on in the United States, talking about hope. And his line from his video, "When we stand united, we win," is just a reworking of Kamala Harris's, "And when we fight, we win."
Yeah.
So he's literally lifting.
Now,
lifting from the Harris campaign. And he wants to be the first to do that.
I don't disagree. I mean, some of the things he said, I completely agree with. But
absolutely.
He's...
Now, you'll notice that he spent most of the time talking about Pierre Poilievre, actually.
Yes.
Right? Which is what we were telling him to do. Just let go of the whole Justin stuff. But the NDP just can't quit liberal Tory, same old story.
They just
can't quit it. So
they need to.
But he's trying to make so he's talking about Pierre. The problem is that right when he started, it's like Canada is a country where we take care of each other, where we teach our kids the values of compassion and kindness.
Okay.
Guy has been in an agreement with the Prime Minister for a couple of years. Keeps on stabbing him in the back, keeps on trash talking him. And then, as he says, I ripped up this deal and didn't even bother to give a phone call to the people that he was working with saying, hey, this is coming. Kindness, compassion, take care of each other.
So anyways.
You're not the guy.
No.
Your behavior does not match the values you say that Canada's about and that your party's about.
And this is the sad fact.
That's the disconnect.
Right.
It's like, had he been a good partner for the entire time and then turned around and said, you know what, this thing with the strike thing, that's a bridge too far. I'm sorry. Gave a phone call, said, you know, this is not going to happen. And then had his press conference, then released his video. That'd be one thing.
Right.
But Karina Gould is on the record as saying, we're all surprised. I think even Anne McGrath was a little surprised because there were some interviews a couple of days before when Karina Gould was about to come back saying, it's like, we think that this agreement will hold. And Anne McGrath was saying, yes, there's still some stuff that we need to work on because we still want to get some more. We want to expand the farmer care and whatnot, right? He's got over a year to go. There's another budget. He could get more commitments, right? He could add something else to the farmer care deal other than contraceptives and diabetes medication. He could fight for an expansion of the disability supports. He could, right? You could see how well the National School Food Program is working and asking for a bonus, let's say, or extra supplement, let's say, for the North or for rural regions or so. But he could try to extract more. He could have called the Prime Minister and said, you know what? Yes, I understand we have our agreement, but it's been a couple of years ago. From that, let's revise that because situations have changed and we need to add a couple of things. But these are all paths he could have taken.
Yes.
But instead, he filmed a video, had it ready to drop. There's some rumors going on. There's a kit, I think it's Kit PNC Bio or something, that mentioned that it seems that someone was threatening to leak it just before it got released. I haven't heard anything from that, but that happens all the time in politics. Could very well be. But releases the video, then has the press conference. So if somebody was planning to leak it beforehand, that would probably explain why the video came out. Because the normal course of things is that you would have the press release, you have the press conferences. As you're doing the press conference, someone in the office releases the video so that they're kind of happening simultaneously.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Mr. Grizzly, if we move forward on that video to, I believe, 1620, that's the beginning of the question answer period. And we'll play a couple of questions and answers. Some of them will be through translation. And I apologize for the sound quality on the video at the beginning. That wasn't us, that was them. And as you could heard somewhere around the way, they were able to adjust it and fix it. I want you to pay attention to the first few questions. We'll maybe do about 3 or 4 questions. Or maybe 4 or 5, if I remember correctly. We'll do about this for about 6 or 7 minutes. So that you can pick up on the themes that he is trying to push.
Okay.
And what he's not saying.
The questions.
We're going to start with questions in the room. So let's start with Barbara. Can you please do name and outlet, and then one question will follow up.
Hi there. Good morning. Barbara with Politics. What specifically led to the decision to cancel the agreement with the Liberals? Were there any recent developments or turning points that triggered this decision?
Thank you for the question. We've got a lot done. We've got some important things that we completed. But it became very clear to me that Justin Trudeau is too beholden to corporate interests to go further, unwilling to stop big corporations that are ripping off Canadians. And so I've ripped up the supply and confidence agreement with Justin Trudeau. And we know that that makes the election timing more uncertain and frankly more likely. And we know that the next election is going to be about a choice, a very important choice for Canadians, between Pierre Poilievre, who wants to destroy our healthcare system, tear it down, or New Democrats who want to fix our healthcare system, build it up for people. That's an important choice, and that's the choice we're bringing to Canadians.
Okay, I'm going to stop it right there. Notice the question was there a specific event or something that caused you? We didn't attempt to answer the question. It seems that the answer is no. So, the thing that we were speculating yesterday, that the government asked the Canada Industrial Relations Board to send the the locked out rail workers back to work in order to make a situation in which the workers would not have their full negotiating rights because they'd go directly to arbitration. Apparently that was not it. Because if it was, I mean, he had an answer all on a silver platter for him.
Right.
But he didn't say, he did turn around and say, yeah, well, it's like, we told them not to do that like this. And then they went ahead and did it. And that was the last straw. That would have been an answer.
Yeah, he
That had
avoided
something.
it altogether.
He didn't talk about it. So clearly that can't be it.
No. So there's something else going on here that we're not privy to, obviously.
And put a pin in that, because there's another reason why that can't be it, because things happen in order in time.
Right.
Next question, Mr. Grizzly.
And how would you respond to accusations that canceling this agreement creates political instability at a time when Canadians need it least?
Well, we were very clear that we were able to get some important things done. Dental care, pharmacare. But it's also clear that Justin Trudeau and the Liberals were unwilling to stop big corporations from ripping off Canadians. And we saw the effect of that, paying more than ever for groceries. And it became very clear that Justin Trudeau and the Liberals were unwilling to do what's necessary to stop these big corporations from ripping you off. And so we decided to rip up the agreement. And now it really sets up the question for the next election. The next election is going to be about a choice between Pierre Poilievre, who wants to let his corporate buddies rip you off even more, jack up your rents, and make you pay even more when you go to buy your groceries. Or New Democrats, who want to save you money, save you when it comes to buying your groceries and your rent. That's a choice in the next election.
Okay, let's stop here. Now, go ahead.
He is saying the same thing that Pierre Poilievre keeps saying.
Mm-hmm.
Differently, but the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And what nobody seems to understand or state or anybody says, nobody follows up that question with, well, how do you intend to lower grocery prices? Are you going to nationalize the grocery chains?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the only way the government can do it. That's the only way.
Yep. So here, Mr. Singh says that in the same breath, the government that's allegedly too selfish and too beholden and too all of that stuff, from whom he got dental care and pharmacare and anti-scab legislation and a whole bunch of other things, wouldn't stand up to the grocers, and therefore he needs to do this now in September 2024 when inflation is down to 2.5% and not in June 2022 when inflation was 8.1. Over 2 years, this has been the situation with growth. But now that food inflation is actually lower than actual inflation, corn inflation, and corn inflation is right smack in the middle of the Bank of Canada target between 2 and 3%. Now it's when wages have been increasing higher than inflation for about a year. Now's the time.
Mm-hmm.
Huh?
Yeah.
What? Who high? Next question.
1 second, sir. I just have to cue it up here.
Catherine Brulotte, Radio-Canada. D'abord, avez-vous confiance en ce moment envers le gouvernement?
Do you have faith in the Trudeau government at this time? We tore up the agreement with Justin Trudeau, and we know that this means that now an election is more likely than in past. And we did this because it was really clear to us that Justin Trudeau and the Liberals did not have the courage. They were too weak to stand up to big businesses who scam or rip people off. And we know in the next election, people will have a choice between Pierre Poilievre, who wants to let these big businesses exploit us more, which means more increases in grocery prices and rent, or the NDP, who want to reduce your grocery and rent cost and save money for people.
So again,
we tore up the agreement with Justin Trudeau.
So again, didn't answer the question directly.
Nope.
And basically gave the answer that he gave in English the first time in French, bypassing the question, and then starts giving the answer that he gave in his first question again in English.
He's not answering a question here. He's not. He's sidestepping.
Right.
He's politicking.
Yeah.
He was a successful lawyer, remember?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and the question wasn't, do you have faith? It's, do you have confidence?
Mm-hmm.
And so basically the question is, Yes, okay, we get it. You've ripped up the supply and confidence agreement. Do you still have confidence in this government? In other words, are you going to make it fall?
Yes.
There was no yes, there was no no there.
No, didn't answer.
He's going to say it back in English, so just keep continuing because we need to get to the next question. I don't have
I'm on
time
to the
stamp
next
for the next
question.
one. Okay, great.
I'm already there. I'm
You
doing
read
my
my
production
mind.
job here.
I know. That's why I love you.
Comment allez-vous voter si un parti présente une motion qui dit simplement que le gouvernement n'a pas
If one party puts through a confidence vote in the House of Commons. Well, because we tore up the agreement with Justin Trudeau, it's clear this creates a situation where an election is more likely than before. We will look at each vote and decide what is in the interest of Canadians and Quebecers. So we will evaluate or assess each decision by that lens. What is in the interest of Canadians? And what's clear for the next election, Justin Trudeau and the Liberals are too weak to stand up and to the Poilievre conservative cuts. We, the NDP, are ready for this combat, this fight, to present an option of hope. We'll bring back hope for people. We want to strengthen our healthcare system. We want to stop these big businesses from ripping people off.
So the fourth party is going to bring us back hope, and the Conservatives are going to give us freedom. Who's going to give us competent government and policies and programs? Because that's what I'm here for. All right. And again, no answer to the question.
No.
Because we're basically asking again, but confidence.
Well, and he keeps saying, I tore up the agreement. I tore up the agreement. I tore up the agreement.
There you go. There you go. He really wants to know. I tore up the agreement. We tore up the agreement. I forced him.
Yes.
It's I forced him. We forced him. Just a variation on the theme.
That's all it is.
Look at me. I'm strong. I'm decisive. I tore up the agreement. Yeah, you did it unilaterally behind your partner's back, punching him in the kidneys again, like you've done all the time for the last 2 years. And then you went and made a big media splash about how it is that you're doing it, but you didn't even think that they were worth a phone call. As you are saying, when we work together, we win, as you're walking away from the people you were working together with after Canadians gave you a mandate to work with people because we elected a minority government in a country where we teach the values of kindness and compassion, but you're doing what you're doing.
I don't get it. I do not get it.
The words and the deeds not matching, not lining up. It's funny. This is an incredibly good campaign speech. If he was that guy, just like that commercial would have been a great commercial. If he actually was the guy that the role, the character he was playing in that commercial is not who he is.
No, it's not.
One more question, Mr. Grizzly.
Okay, 1 second.
On this one.
1 second while I keep it up here.
So frustrating.
Yeah, very much so.
Victoria Stunt with CBC National News. What is your assessment of how the supply and confidence agreement worked for the NDP, and do you think you'll actually be able to leverage more from the Liberals without this deal? If you could answer in English and French.
Great question.
When I think about the supply and confidence agreement, I think about two people and what it means to those two folks. And that to me is something I keep in my heart. I think about Brianna, a mom of 5 kids, who was able to get each of her kids a visit to the dentist for the first time in their life. And I met her kids at a park in Edmonton, and I can tell you her kids were happier and healthier because of that visit. And I think about Susan, who insists I call her Sue. And I remember meeting her in Ottawa, and she was sitting in the dentist chair when she told the dentist and the denturist that she is a cancer survivor. She beat cancer, but in the aftermath of that, lost her teeth, and that she wanted her smile back. And I remember her tears of joy when the dentist and the denturist said, "We're going to get you your smile back." That's who I think about. I think about Sue and I think about Brianna and millions of people like them that have gotten support because we fought for them. But I also know that Sue and Brianna need a lot more, and that this Liberal government is not willing to do that Justin Trudeau is simply not willing to stop big corporations from ripping them off. And that's why we made this decision. It is clear that the Liberals and Justin Trudeau do not have the courage. They're too beholden to corporate interests to stop them from being ripped off, to stop people from being ripped off. And we know that this sets up potential for a more likelihood of an election. And that election is going to come down to a choice. Pierre Poilievre, who's going to let his buddies rip you off even more. He's going to let big corporate grocery stores rip you off even more, and that means higher prices when you buy your groceries. Or New Democrats who are going to save you money when you buy your groceries. That's the choice in the next
How,
okay, so stop. That will come in the next thing. So that's enough for him from this one. So he really wants you to know that he ripped up the agreement. He really wants to know that Justin Trudeau is too weak to stand up to the corporations, though he did deliver the pharma care and the anti-scab legislation and the dental care. But he's too weak. Did you get anything out of the supply and confidence agreement? Oh, let's not acknowledge. Let's not acknowledge that you got pretty much everything that you were asking for. You got pretty much that the Liberals were an extremely reliable and good partner. Yeah, a couple of times you might have had to push them a little more. They weren't willing to go as far as you wanted somewhere in it. But you got them done. And they weren't trashing you every second chance. And they weren't litigating this out in the media like you have. And they didn't have to, 2 weeks before a deal was signed, go out and do their thing, where you go out and you do the thing saying, was like, we really need to force them to do this because it doesn't look like they're going to do it. We're dragging them into it kicking and screaming. And meanwhile, there's no evidence of them kicking or screaming anywhere like this. But, 2 weeks before the deal is done, you go out and you make a big push about being forceful, about needing to give them one last push to get them there because you forced them. Sorry, I got a bit of Greek Pete going on for me at the moment.
I mean, for good reason.
You forced them to do something they already said that they were going to do anyway.
Yeah.
But it was that last press conference 2 weeks before it was signed and announced that really got it over the hump. It's just this guy. So clearly, and in that answer, you could see, right? The whole first part was sort of the transition until he found a part that he could go into some stump speech, and then he took off again about Pierre. So his problem really is with Pierre.
Yes.
Given all he's talking about Pierre, it's like, we don't want Pierre to do this, and Justin Trudeau won't stand up to him. I'm pretty sure if there's one person in the whole damn parliament that Justin Trudeau is more than happy to stand up to, it's shit given Pierre.
Yeah, he has no fear of that man.
I'm just saying. Again, too weak. I mean, girl, please. Between you and Justin Trudeau, right? Which one? You're doing this whole thing because the narrative about you is that you're the weak one.
Mm-hmm.
You're the weak one. It's like the level at this, it's nuclear grade projection.
Oh, yes.
You're the fourth party that's sitting in 17% on the poll aggregator and 15% with Léger, who might be possibly losing the next 2 by-elections. You're the weak one, buddy. You're the one that's too weak to make change. And you have decided that your best way, with 25% of your mandate left, was to snipe from the sidelines and surrender the power you had to actually make the changes you say you want. And that you're going to devote the last quarter of the term, assuming that this goes all the way till October, to sniping rather than using the influence that you had as a fourth party, historic influence that no fourth party has ever had.
Right, ever in
with
history.
all the things that you did get accomplished, though not alone and not by forcing anyone. There was no gun to Justin Trudeau's head when you guys signed that supply and confidence agreement.
No.
And Stephen Harper showed that a minority parliament in which you don't have a supply and confidence agreement with anyone can still last a good 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're just going back to the way that Parliament normally operates without a confidence and supply agreement in a minority situation, which we just saw under Stephen Harper before this last term when he got his majority. But we saw it for 2 terms. And we saw it with Paul Martin. We saw it with Chris Sands last term. It's like,
yes,
this is not a new concept for us Canadians. A minority parliament without a supply and confidence agreement, one with a supply and confidence agreement is a rarity.
Uh-huh.
You both provided Canadians with stability at a time when we really needed it during COVID. It was a smart decision. You got praised and lauded for this. Cooperative government, people working together, offering us some stability during COVID. And then you did nothing with it. You said, I'm going to adopt the strategy. You said that you did this with Justin Trudeau because you had just had a child and you were thinking about the future of your child and you couldn't imagine what it would be like if she grew up in a Pierre Poilievre Canada, conservative Canada at that time, because Poilievre wasn't the leader then when they signed the agreement.
Right. No, that was Aaron O'Toole at the time.
Yeah. I was like, and Aaron O'Toole is way less scary than Pierre Poilievre.
You think?
So Aaron O'Toole, the prospect of a Prime Minister Aaron O'Toole got you to sign this deal, but Pierre Poilievre gets you to pull out.
Yeah.
The logical inconsistencies.
Well, this is the thing, right? It's, like I said, shot himself in the foot.
Now, I'm going to play this. This is an interview with David Cochrane from Power and Politics. This is a thing of beauty on David.
You want me to start it right at the beginning? Or?
Right at the beginning, yeah. At some point, the interview will end. I think I'm just going to let it play out.
Mm-hmm.
I might have stopped it once or twice, but
we're not going to play the whole thing. It's 47 minutes.
No, not the whole. The interview is the whole thing. They took all the segments that involved, including power panel discussion, put it together. But
okay.
I think it's a solid like 12 minutes or whatnot. David Cochrane really goes.
Okay, just a second. Here we go.
We're starting with the top story in Ottawa. The NDP's deal with the Liberals is over. Despite Jagmeet Singh ripping up the agreement, the Prime Minister says the Liberals are still focused on governing.
Hopefully the NDP will continue to try and deliver for Canadians. Right now they're focused on politics. We're focused on Canadians.
Singh faced questions for the first time today about his decision to back out of the deal. So after 2.5 years, why did Jagmeet Singh end this deal now? And is he prepared to launch the country into a federal election? Jagmeet Singh is the leader of the Federal New Democratic Party, and he joins me now. Mr. Singh, welcome back to Power and Politics.
Thanks so much.
You keep saying that Prime Minister Justin Trudeau caves to corporate greed and won't do what needs to be done. Can you give me a specific example where you asked the Liberals to take action on corporate greed and they didn't do it?
For food prices, for over 2 years, food prices exceeded general inflation, and we said we need to take action. The Liberals' action was to tell people, and they said this with a straight face, to look at grocery flyers. Champagne came out with that as a solution, that people need to be better at shopping. They then said they were going to go and ask the CEOs nicely to stabilize prices. None of that worked. Most recently, workers wanted to strike for better work conditions, safer work conditions, which is actually not just for those workers, but for all Canadians when it comes to railway safety. And they were locked out, so they didn't even get to go on strike. And then instead of allowing for a negotiation to happen at the table, the Liberals, Justin Trudeau, caved to corporate interest and forced binding arbitration, which undermined the workers' right to negotiate fairly, and also rewarded bad behavior of corporations that in a lot of ways had some shady collusion in the timing of both the CN and CPKC labor disputes happening around the same time, both undermining workers, both hurting workers. So many examples, but those are the two I can give you.
Well, let's just talk about food prices, because I know this has been something you've been talking about. You've been going after Galen Weston. You've been going after grocery CEOs. Yes, food prices were higher than baseline inflation because you had things like the war in Ukraine. You had avian flu driving up the price of chicken. You have climate change either causing flooding or drought in key agricultural sectors. I mean, what's the policy response to that from a government to drive down the prices that you would have done?
You also had record profits, that these companies weren't just making good profits at the same time of seeing Canadians have to pay more than ever at the grocery stores and leaving with less than ever. These same grocery stores posted the most profits they've ever seen.
Right, but what's the policy response for a government to drive down the prices?
So we're talking at the same time there.
Sorry, well, but I'm trying to understand, like other countries also have food price challenges. So what is the policy response you asked them to do that they didn't do? This is what I'm struggling to understand.
We said we needed to see some either force these companies to lower prices or impose a excess profit tax. We then put forward a bill or a motion, a plan to say put in place price caps, something that France has done effectively and lowered the price of over 5,000 essential food items. Other countries are taking this more seriously. There's been attempts to go after the excess profits that corporations are making in a way to curb some of the impacts on consumers, on people. They're feeling so squeezed, so hurt. And Justin Trudeau and the Liberals have ignored that. And so it's become very clear they're not interested in taking the steps necessary to tackle these serious problems. Corporate landlords are ripping off Canadians. There's so much more that can be done to protect consumers, protect Canadians, protect renters, and the Liberals refuse to do so.
Okay, so what can they do on rent? Because rent is provincial jurisdiction. That's what runs rental regulations, landlord-tenants agencies. These are our provincial government powers and responsibilities. What is it you asked them to do on rent that they didn't do?
Well, a significant number of corporate landlords take federal money. They take federal money in the form of preferential tax treatment. They take it in the form of direct subsidies. They take it in the form of having their loans backed by CMHC. We said that not a cent of federal support should go to corporate landlords that rent evict their tenants, that mistreat their tenants, that jack up rents above guideline increases. And I've met with many tenants in Toronto and communities across the country where they are in a building that receives some of those forms of federal support and are being exploited and being ripped off. That's another tool. There are many excuses if the federal government wants to find an excuse not to solve a problem, but I think leadership is not finding an excuse, it's finding a solution. And when it comes to these federal supports being given to corporate landlords, that is a powerful tool to say, no, you're not going to give you a cent of federal support unless you follow these guidelines. Have some strings attached to the fact that CMHC backs with insurance on loans that give these large corporate landlords the ability to buy more properties. These are tools that can be used, but they're not being used.
Well, look, there's disagreement on what exactly is driving the grocery store chain profits and whether the government can really put a cap on food prices and have a realistic effect.
They've done it in other countries.
Sure, well, but they have different laws and they have different trade agreements. I mean, can you legally impose price caps on goods that come in from Mexico and the United States without triggering some sort of a trade dispute?
We know that corporate grocery stores have their own in-house brands on essentials. There's lots of ways to find, if their goal is to find a solution, there's solutions out there. If the goal is to say, yes, we're going to take on corporate greed, they suggested to do something. They said they were going to have a meeting with the CEOs. Well, why not threaten them with excess profit tax? There's lots of tools. It's really about the will. And this is the problem with the Liberals and Justin Trudeau. They're very quick to find excuses. There are a lot of solutions. If you want to get things done and you are the Prime Minister of Canada, there are so many tools at your disposal to get things done. Okay. You want to find excuses? Yes, there's lots of excuses. Say, oh, I can't do this, I can't do that. But if you want solutions, you can find them.
But, okay, just as a final point on this, if you wanted them to take action on food prices, you know, even though there's some disagreement on that, if you wanted them to do something on rent, even though that falls into provincial jurisdiction, why not make those conditions of the supply and confidence agreement, try to renegotiate it, put it in there, and use the tool that you had to make that part of the agenda rather than walking out and losing that leverage play?
Well, we've got a lot of things done, and I think it's important to point out we got a significant number of things done that were part of our agreement. The dental care program is out the door. It's being delivered. Seniors are getting it. Kids are getting it. It's a brand new program that we forced the government to deliver. Pharmacare legislation is passed. Anti-scab legislation is passed. Some of the key pieces that we wanted to have done, the Sustainable Jobs Act is passed. We passed these pieces of legislation. Some of them we needed to see the rollout into this summer, and we saw that with the dental care piece. And then it became very clear with the overwhelming amount of evidence that the Liberals are too weak, too beholden to corporate interests to do what's necessary to make people's lives better. And they show again and again more evidence of that. And they're also too weak and frankly similarly beholden to corporate interests to take on Pierre Poilievre and the threat of conservative cuts. The next election is going to be a change election. Okay, people are done with Justin Trudeau. So people are going to have to choose between Pierre Poilievre and his vision of cutting and gutting the things that Canadians need, or New Democrats who offer hope and investing in the solutions.
But the deficiencies you're talking about now are not in the supply and confidence agreement. They lived up to their side of the agreement, and now you're walking away without living up to your side of it, right? Of passing 4 budgets and maintaining stability in Parliament until June of 2025. I mean, they honored what they signed. Are you not breaking your word to them by walking away?
It became clear that we had completed a significant part of our agreement, and that what we needed to see from Justin Trudeau and the Liberal Party was, in the Liberal government, was a lot more. And they were unwilling to do what was necessary, given the unprecedented inflation that people are going through, the cost of living increase people are going through, the lack of urgency, the lack of any sort of real volition to want to make things better for people, made it clear to me that we could no longer continue.
Okay, the language you used in the video, in your statement, and here in this interview, where you've referred to the Liberals as too weak, too selfish, and too beholden to corporate interests. I mean, that is a critique of the fundamental character of this government. I mean, aren't they essentially the same people, though, and the same government that you signed the agreement with in March of 2022? I don't see dramatic change in who they are and how they function. I mean, explain this to me.
We saw a dramatic change in people's circumstances when we first embarked on this agreement over 2 years ago, and we saw subsequently a massive increase in cost of living and a complete abject failure of Justin Trudeau and the Liberals to respond to that. They did not respond to food prices while acknowledging that it was a problem. You have to recall that they did come out and do press conference saying, okay, yes, it's a problem. You got to look at your food flyers. You got to look at grocery flyers and look at the deals. Like, that's an insulting thing to say to a family that's saying, we're spending more than ever before on groceries and are leaving with less than ever before. And they hear from Justin Trudeau's government, one of their ministers, saying, you got to do a better job of shopping around your flyers. Then they get this fake promise of, we'll force them to stabilize prices by asking them nicely. I mean, this is all an acceptance of the problem, but a failure to do anything meaningful to address it. That became very clear, and we saw more and more examples of that.
Well, inflation,
struggles that people are going through made it clear that this government and Justin Trudeau and the Liberals are not up to the challenges.
Okay, well, inflation is coming down now, and in some cases, food prices are deflating. They're actually decreasing. So, I mean, there has been some change in those circumstances as you're doing this. But if the Liberals
say, though, the net increase, though, of like over, what, 25-30% increase of prices, even if inflation stabilizes, that doesn't address the fact that prices have gone up by that much. They've not come down by 30%.
No, understood, but there are a lot of global inputs into the prices of a basket of food that we talked about earlier. But I wonder, Mr. Singh, if you say they are too weak, too selfish, too beholden to corporate interests. I know you've left the supply and confidence agreement. How can you vote confidence in future confident votes in a government with these fundamental deficiencies? If I had an employee with those qualities and I had the chance to fire them, I'd do it. What are you going to do?
We're going to take each vote as it comes. I'm not going to guess at what the vote is and guess at my vote at it. We'll take each vote as it comes and make our decision. But what is clear is what we are up against now is an election that will happen because I've torn up this agreement at a date that's now more uncertain. But that election is going to be about who can replace this government. And it's a choice between Pierre Poilievre, who wants to cut the things that Canadians need, been very open about wanting to cut people's pensions, one of the first things he announced in 2022. So he wants to cut people's pensions. We're New Democrats who want to strengthen someone's pension and ensure that we make life better for people.
Okay, I do want to talk about the election in just a second, but I want a little bit more insight, if I can, into the timeline of how you made this decision. Because this video announcing it was released yesterday, and you've gotten some criticism for doing this days after Mr. Poilievre suggested you should tear up the agreement, but the video itself was recorded weeks ago, I'm told, at least a week and a half, maybe close to a month ago, so it was done well in advance of anything Mr. Poilievre said. When precisely did you make the decision to pull the plug on the supply and confidence agreement?
Well, we've been having ongoing discussions about this for a while now in caucus amongst my team. It's something that's not something that was a last-minute decision that we just woke up and decided. It's something we've been thinking about. We were looking at things that we wanted to get done. We wanted to make sure that dental care, a big chunk of it was completed, and we wanted to make sure that things had been passed and out the door. And so we've been reflecting on this for a while. And as you mentioned, yes, the video was shot close to a month ago, so well before Poilievre's recent letter. And let me be really clear, I will never listen to the advice of Pierre Poilievre, someone who wants to destroy our healthcare system, someone who wants to get rid of, destroy pensions, someone that wants to let his corporate buddies have a feast at the troughs when it comes to ripping off Canadians. Like, I'm never going to listen to a guy like that. Someone who wants to let his buddies rip off Canadians at grocery stores and when it comes to corporate landlords. That's not someone I'm ever going to take advice from.
Okay, so you made the decision, what, in July, in June? Like when was the actual decision point made? And then let's go shoot a video to be ready to announce it to the world.
I can tell you that we made this decision over lots of reflection, and the decision was announced yesterday. We've torn up the agreement, and now we've made it very clear that we are going to
won't answer the question.
And this sets up a question about the election. We know that makes the election
Just the date, please.
more probable than before. Before it was less probable, now it's more likely.
When?
And we're ready for that. And the choices for Canadians are in front of them.
When?
Conservatives under Pierre Poilievre who want to cut the things that you need. New Democrats who want to build up our country. That's going to be the choice in the next election.
But if the decision had been made quite some time ago, to the point that you were able to shoot a video and do video production, wasn't this worth a phone call to the Prime Minister that you've worked with for the last 2.5 years on this to deliver things like dental care? Like, why didn't you pick up the phone and call Justin Trudeau and say, hey, we have to talk about this because I'm going to fundamentally change the political stability and the political landscape of the country? I mean, isn't it worth a phone call when you've been working together for 2 years?
We don't want to leave a door open to any new deal. There's no new deal here. The deal is done. I've ripped it up. And we're moving forward.
Drink.
So I didn't want to open up the door to a potential negotiation or
okay, I'm growing weary of this.
any future deal. The deal is done. We're going to go vote to vote, and we're going to continue to fight for Canadians, and we're going to bring that choice to Canadians. They've got a choice coming up, and it's going to be about who replaces this government. And that choice is between, at the federal level, you got Conservatives who want to cut with Pierre Poilievre, or you got New Democrats, you got me who's going to fight for working people. Okay. That's the choice.
But you've now, as you've acknowledged, created the conditions for an early election, right? And this favors the Conservatives, would be the analysis that I would have, in that they have the big lead, they have the big war chest, and this is the very party that you are saying today represents a threat to the well-being of Canadians, and you have just created the circumstances where they can get their path to power much sooner, much quicker, and before you're in a position to stop them.
It's going to be a fight. I'm not suggesting this is easy in any ways. There's a big fight for the future of our country, and we have a really serious job in front of us. Canadians need to know what they already know about Conservatives, and they need to know that Pierre Poilievre is serious about it. He and his team talk regularly about dismantling the Canada healthcare system. They want to do that. They do not want to see a public healthcare system anymore. They want to see people paying money out of pocket privately to get care. I think that is fundamentally wrong. Generations of Canadians have fought to have a healthcare system where it should not matter how much money you earn to determine the quality of care you get or how quickly you get that care. That is something that Pierre Poilievre is opposed to. That is a fundamental difference of opinion for the future of our country. We're going to take that to Canadians. He wants to cut pensions. They did it when Harper was in power. Pierre Poilievre announced it right when he became leader. He said that EI and pensions or payroll taxes, he would cut them. That means he wants to cut people's pensions. He's been very open about it. That's a choice I want to put to Canadians. Do you want to let Pierre Poilievre cut your pensions, or do you want New Democrats to strengthen your pension?
But the criticism response from the Liberals yesterday was that you're doing this for your own political benefit, and that it's hard to differentiate yourself, I guess, from a Liberal government that you've been working with. Sort of, you've been the Robin to Justin Trudeau's Batman, and that you're doing this to differentiate and pivot and create a chance to contrast and offer change. I mean, that this is purely a political decision for your self-interest because they were living up to the letter of the deal and doing everything that they said they would do. How do you respond to what they said?
It became clear that people needed a lot more. We went through unprecedented cost of living increases, and those are really serious challenges. And it became also clear again and again that when push came to shove, Justin Trudeau and the Liberals chose to side with the folks that are ripping off Canadians. They chose to side with the big corporate grocery stores. They chose to side with the big corporate landlords. They did not use the tools they had at their disposal to fight against these serious challenges that people are going through. That made it clear to us we couldn't continue.
Mr. Poilievre has criticized you. He's called you sellout Singh. He's called you stuntman Singh for doing what he suggested you should do in terms of tearing up the deal. But you're now saying you're going to go vote by vote. You're not saying you're going to bring down the government. I mean, do you still have any confidence in this government whatsoever after working with them for 2.5 years? Do you have any confidence?
We're going to make a decision based on what's in front of us. I wouldn't say to you, I'm going to decide
not a yes
on
or
a
no.
vote that hasn't actually been presented. I'm going to look at it and assess, is it something in the interest of Canadians, and make a decision that way. But on Pierre Poilievre, let's be really clear. This is a guy with a silly notion of having alliteration as his strategy, with buzzword slogans, thinking that that is how you run a country. I mean, it's silly and frankly, it's petty. And what he knows is that he is lying to Canadians. He knows that we fought and forced Justin Trudeau to do things they would never have done, bring in dental care to change the lives of millions of Canadians.
Right.
That's what we did. He knows that. So he's lying knowingly, but he's doing it because he wants to distract from Canadians that what he wants to do is destroy dental care. So for seniors out there, for parents and grandparents that are getting it, he doesn't think they deserve to have dental care. He doesn't think kids deserve to have dental care, despite the fact that taxpayers have been paying for his dental care since most of his adult life. He doesn't think that people deserve it. He also wants to dismantle our entire healthcare system. That's what he's distracting from when he does these lies and these petty things.
But the Conservatives are a threat to cut everything that Canadians hold dear, in your view, and the Liberals are a threat to keep selling out to corporate interests, in your view. The Liberals have been hammered by corporate Canada for their capital gains tax increase, windfall taxes on insurance and financial institutions, oil and gas emissions cap, digital services tax, which is putting us into a collision course as a country with the United States potentially. They brought in a minimum tax on the wealthy to avoid them, to make it harder for them to use deductions to get around paying tax. I mean, that is not a pro-corporate agenda, a pro-wealthy agenda as you're defining them.
When it comes down to it, though, when push comes to shove, on the two most fundamental things that Canadians care about, cost of their groceries, cost of their rent, on those two fundamental things, they've caved heavily to corporate interests. They threatened to bring in a excess profit tax. They didn't do it. They didn't actually get any real results on lowering prices. They knew that this is a problem. They accepted it. And we pushed for changes, and they backed away, and they backed down because they caved to the corporate interests on grocery prices. And that's something that affects people on a regular basis. That's your weekly bill. People are worried about something that's affecting them regularly, and Justin Trudeau and the Liberals failed to respond to that.
Okay, just
on top of that, when it comes to the rent, that's something you have to pay monthly. That's a serious thing. And we've got corporate landlords in Canada receiving either CMHC-backed insurance on their loans, or getting preferential tax treatment, or getting straight up federal money and not and mistreating their tenants.
Right, but
the government could have done something about it. They didn't.
I mean, look, the rent challenges are bigger than just corporate landlords, though they are a part of it, and it is provincial jurisdiction. So there are limits in what you want them to do there. But because
what I've described isn't provincial jurisdiction. I'm just saying.
No, but it may not be enough to solve the problem.
Companies that rip off people.
Right. Well, as a final question, you're framing the election now as a choice between you and Mr. Poilievre, and that we don't know when the next election is going to be, but we know when the by-election in Elmwood-Transcona is going to be. That's on September 16th. That is an NDP seat. The Blakeys have held that. Daniel Blakey left to go back and work for Wab Kinew and put this seat into play. Conservatives have a chance to win this. If you lose that seat to the Conservatives, are you really the credible alternative to Pierre Poilievre?
Right now, people in that by-election have a choice. And that's an important choice. I'm going to continue to put that choice to the people of Elmwood-Transcona. I'm actually headed there in a day. I'll be there tomorrow. And folks are going to have a choice in that by-election. Do they want to support the conservative cuts of Pierre Poilievre? They rejected that in Manitoba.
But what if they vote for it? What if they vote for it? What if they say yes? What if they vote for the conservative agenda and not for your agenda after you have defined the choice Canadians are facing in these stark terms? What does that tell you about this move?
Well, I'm not going to answer hypothetical. We don't know the outcome of that election until it happens, but I can tell you what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to go to Manitoba. I'm going to Winnipeg. Like I said, tomorrow I'll be there, and I'll be sharing with folks our vision of a hopeful Canada, one where we lift each other up, where we take care of one another. And I'm going to contrast that with Pierre Poilievre's vision, which is to tear down Canada, tear down our healthcare, tear down and cut our pensions, tear down the things that Canadians believe in. That's the choice in this next election, and it's the choice in this by-election.
That's also hypothetical.
Jagmeet Singh, federal NDP leader, thank you for your time today, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. What was bad with that interview? Let me count the ways. Okay, let's start with what was good. David Cochrane.
He was great. He was wonderful.
I wish somebody would interview Pierre Poilievre like that.
Yeah, no kidding. Poilievre will not show up on David Cochrane's program because
hell no.
He knows Cochrane will hold his feet to the fire. He won't allow Cochrane to question him because Cochrane will not let him get away with garbage.
Yeah, Poilievre only shows up on CP24.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. So, let's go through what's wrong with that. In the first answer, when he's asked about what caused this, then all of a sudden, this one, he mentions the CNCP workers. Now, while he is absolutely correct in saying that both companies sort of colluded to time their lockouts in order to put pressure, which might explain why it is that the government took the measure it took, which may explain why you couldn't get what you usually normally got from this government, allowing the process to play out, because both companies colluded, and therefore the Prime Minister had a decision between watching the economy collapse very quickly in 3 or 4 days, or so at least there's an arbitration process. Yes, people got their rights trampled on, but it's not because of the fault of the government. It's because, as you said, the corporations colluded in order to create a bear hug around Canada. Now, if you were opposed to creating a bear hug around Canada when it was the convoyers doing it, and you're so anti-corporate greed, then you should be really opposed to corporations putting a bear hug. Right, Mr. Singh?
Mm-hmm.
Inconsistent. Yes. Then, record profits for grocers. Now, he keeps on talking about government has access to a lot of tools and a lot of solutions. But if there were so many tools and so many solutions, where was Jagmeet Singh's plan using those solutions? Where was the press conference where he said, these are all the solutions that are available to government? Pick a card, any card, pick a suite of these and come up with something. Where was all the pieces of legislation by NDP MPs to address each one of those with one of these solutions that they could have got the Liberal governments to vote down? And when he talks about all of these solutions and all of these tools, he says forcing them to lower their prices. How?
How?
Instituting price caps like other governments have done, but as Mr. Cochrane pointed out, different countries have different obligations. So how?
Never
price caps is just a variation on forcing them, but not how. Or excess profits tax, which doesn't lower the price of groceries. It just allows the government to collect more tax revenue to redistribute. And if the corporations want to get that money back, then they just hike the prices.
Yeah.
So the ton of solutions, whatnot, that you say are there, the tons of tools, you don't seem to have them at the top of your head. The ones that will work, the ones that you say that the government keeps on resisting, you don't have them at the top of your head, because if you did, you would have them ready for this type of interview. You'd be able to point to specific solutions and mechanisms. And you probably would have had a plan somewhere in the last 2 years, and there probably would have been some legislation that you introduced at some point 2 years. Or at some point in the last 2 years, when you noticed that food prices were high, you would have asked to renegotiate that agreement or include these things in there. But that didn't happen. Then rent, his solutions. Again, cut off federal supports. Okay, yes. Now, during the COVID crisis, there were some landlords, probably not the corporate ones, were having some troubles making end meet, maybe even some corporate ones, because, things were going up. But yes, okay. The federal government doesn't give money to people who do rent evictions. Is the amount of money that they are receiving from the government so much that it would make it an unattractive cost proposition? I'm thinking that the amount of money that they're receiving from the federal government isn't that much. And given that they seem to have the help of all the conservative premiers, and none of them seem to be willing, there's only so far that can go.
Yeah.
Then it says that when David Cochrane asks, well, why not alter the agreement? Jagmeet Singh actually says, well, we got a lot out of it, and then it became clear. Okay, so when it became clear, why didn't you try to alter the agreement? It's like, he basically starts off his answer by saying the agreement worked. We got a lot. And then it became clear. Most of the agreement was implemented. What became clear? The government wasn't resisting, wasn't trashing, wasn't saying, no, we're not going to do this. There was no moment of clear here. Because people are done with Justin Trudeau. That's the third message that he wants you to remember. You're done with Justin Trudeau. You're done, clearly. You didn't even think he deserved a phone call. It's like you just like went out for a pack of smokes and didn't come out. You didn't even leave a Dear John letter.
Yeah, pretty much.
Hey, Justin, like gum? Want a pack? Stay right there, boy. I'll be back. What? We got a lot, but we needed to see a lot more. But that a lot more you needed to see wasn't in the agreement. The lot more you wanted to see came 2 years after the agreement. So again, why not renegotiate the agreement?
Well, and as David Cochrane pointed out, they held up their end of the agreement.
Yes. Justin Trudeau is too weak, too selfish, too beholden, too weak to actually collaborate with you to get a lot that you said you got done, too selfish to not claim 100% of the credit as you have every time you got one of the things that you put into the agreement in it, and too beholden to corporate interests, even though he did that whole list of things that David Cochrane mentioned, like about emissions caps and capital gains tax and minimum taxes. And but you could always count on Justin Trudeau, always, to bend the knee to corporate, and he will never stand up. But here are all the times that he did.
Yeah, you know, it begs the question, and it's a pretty obvious answer to this question. Which major political party leader is actually working for the benefits of all Canadians and not themselves? Not themselves, but Canadians. Which one? The obvious answer is the Prime Minister, because he's actually working to benefit all of our lives.
And judging by the amount of political capital he's actually put on the table.
No kidding.
Because we got Daniel Smith crowing here that we got record industry profits from the oil industry despite Justin Trudeau's attempts to decap us. Yeah, and those profits were generated thanks to that pipeline that all of us bought and then built to get. So, yeah, thanks to you for shitting on all Canadians, Danielle Smith, and taking all the credit for the profits. But not thanking Rachel Notley, not thanking Justin Trudeau, and not thanking every single taxpayer in this country from coast to coast to coast who ponied up to build that damn thing.
Or the individuals who reside on and own that treaty land who allowed it to go through.
Yeah. No, you did that. You did that. You took all the guy. So the guy who's too beholden to corporatism and too selfish shares credit. Without him, you would not have been able to get it done, because if he's too weak, you are weaker.
Yes.
So you needed the help of a weak man to get a lot?
I'm just so disappointed in Jagmeet. I had so much hope for him.
Yep.
He just continues to disappoint me. And this is another example of this. And look, love, hate, loathe, despise, tolerate, respect the Prime Minister, whatever your feelings are. It's not what's at play here. What is at play here is the fact that somebody who had an agreement turns around, throws him completely under the bus and says he's weak, he's this, he's that, the other thing, yet they'll continue to vote with them so he can stay in power until the next election. Because I can guarantee you he's not going to have a non-confidence vote until and unless we see indictments of Conservative Party members when it comes to Russian interference and Russian propaganda. Until that happens, he won't be voting to bring the government down.
Nope.
Because he knows he'll be unemployed in a day or two.
Yeah. And if around the time of the budget, Paget and the poll aggregators are still showing him at 15 or 17%, he's going to vote for that budget.
Oh, damn right he is.
He's hoping that he's going to get a bump between now and then.
Yeah.
Then he talks of,
like I said, he really disappoints me, though, because he's just using conservative talking points here.
Yeah, and conservative strategy.
Yes.
Like this, we ripped up the agreement is axe the tax.
Yes.
He's too selfish, too weak, and too beholden is after 9 years of Justin Trudeau.
That's all it is.
It's literally the same thing. He just keeps on repeating the tagline over and over again, and including it in every answer. He talks about there being there was a dramatic change, because David Cochrane asked him, well, there was no dramatic change in the behavior of the Liberals. They're still the same people you signed the deal with, and they seem to have been consistent. So why the dramatic change on your part? He goes, but there was a dramatic changes in people's circumstances over the last couple of years. which were entirely predictable when you signed the supply and confidence agreement, because everybody knew that a pandemic in which the whole world shut down would affect distribution and would involve worker shortages and supply shortages and make things more expensive. And so everything that happened after the increase in inflation and the increase in prices were all things that were entirely predictable when you signed the deal. Everybody was talking about it. All the world's economists were talking about that these things would come as a result. And then Putin goes into war.
And when
of
was
course,
the
which really affects oil.
When did the blockage occur at the Suez Canal due to a ship running aground? That affected it.
That was
took
in the 60s, I think.
No. Just recently.
Oh, the recent, yes.
Just recently, and that
Yes.
that was a ship that ran aground, and
2023. It got
There you
stuck
go.
and got stuck.
Against the
I
banks
don't
of
know
the
what
Suez Canal,
transversal.
and it blocked the
Yes.
canal so that they couldn't get goods through, and that took like what, 2 weeks to free it?
Yeah, because the ship was in
Billions
the
of
wrong way.
dollars. Yes.
Lined up the wrong way. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
So that also factors into it, because when that was happening, everybody goes, "This is going to create inflationary prices. This is a problem."
When Iran started monitoring the Strait of Hormuz.
Yes.
And then people had to like go around the world, going like under the Cape of Good Hope to get adding time and money.
And it all goes back to, if those of us who are not that smart might remember the episode, the scene in Good Will Hunting, where Matt Damon's character is being interviewed for a job, and he talks about how, so this happens in this part of the world, and at the end it affects my buddy who is paying $5 a gallon of gas and can't afford to get to work now, because what it does is it's the pebble in a pond effect. You drop the pebble, look at the ripples, look at how big they get, look at how far they go. And effectively what happened in Iran and the Suez Canal has affected all of us. What is happening in Ukraine is affecting all of us.
Mm-hmm. Breadbasket of the world.
We're all affected by this, some more so than others. But we're all affected by this. So when something happens in another part of the world, and if you look at it and it's like, oh, that involves trade, we're going to feel it eventually.
Yes, all politics is local, but often the effects are global.
Correct.
Then he's asked, right, about the timing of the video and all that kind of stuff. And Jagmeet Singh actually says he did the video close to a month ago. So when he opened that interview mentioning the railway strike, well, that wasn't a thing.
Yeah, wasn't a thing, didn't exist.
So you can't use that as a pretext or a premise. You had your video done.
Yeah.
We talked about it a lot in cabinet like this. But so this guy has been going around the country for about a month, even though they were talking about it. Either he made the decision unilaterally or did share it with the caucus, that he was going to be making this video to be dropped at some strategic time to come, and has been going around Canada doing whatever he does, not letting Canadians know that this was coming, and thinking that all the people that he's been working with over the past 2 years did not have a right to know or shouldn't be informed. He had so little respect for the people with whom he was in partnership, which was obvious by the way he was treating them, that he didn't even have the decency to inform them. And then when he's asked again, when precisely did you decide to do this? His answer was, the deal was done. I was done with him. I was done, so I just tore it up. I walked out on you. And I didn't even bother to tell you I was going to do it. You picked a fine time to leave us, Jagmeet.
You have to be a certain age to know what you're talking about there, but yes. It's an old Kenny Rogers song.
For hungry children and crops in the field.
You picked a fine time to leave me, loose wheel.
Loose wheel. I mean, come on, man. And it's like the deal was done. The deal was done because you decided it was done. And the question is, when did you decide? It doesn't matter when I decided the deal was done. That's borderline abuser talk.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how good you are. I was done with you, so I blew my nose into the Kleenex that is you, and now I'm throwing you away. This is literally what Jagmeet Singh did. He blew his nose into his coalition. Got me saying it now. He blew his nose into his partners and said, "Ooh, this is grody."
Yes.
So if someone with whom you've entered into an agreement in such a high-profile way and maintained that agreement for 2 years and maintained their side of the agreement can get disposed of that casually and thoughtlessly and callously and disrespectfully, what has this leader got for you? These are not character points that Jagmeet is scoring here. He was asked about, well, now you've made it easier for Pierre Poilievre, or you're at least going to give him access quicker to what it is that he wants. Then goes, well, I know it's going to be a fight, but it became clear that people need a lot more. And if you go back to his press conference when he was talking about people need a lot more, he was talking about Sue and Brianne. You would think that if this video was done over a month ago, you might have brought Sue and Brianne to that press conference so that they could speak for themselves. Maybe. Perhaps. And then near the end, where he's talking about, again, why it is that he didn't call. This is what I didn't, as far as I was concerned, the deal was so done, that it wasn't even worth my time to actually ask whether something could be renegotiated or whether there would be an openness to renegotiating it was just so done. I didn't want to have any other conversations that could distract from this. Now, let me take a pivot and try to distract by the fact I have no answer for why it is I didn't call or try to renegotiate the deal by talking about Pierre again.
And
the only thing he has to say about the Prime Minister and his negotiating partners is that they were too weak, too selfish, too beholden, and they weren't doing everything that you wanted. Nobody gets everything they want in a deal.
Ever.
Welcome to realizing that you don't get... A deal means both people get something, not you get everything that you want, and then you keep on.
Yeah, he doesn't seem to fundamentally understand how government works.
This guy.
Well, and let's add.
And there was a lot of good things said in there.
Oh, yes.
Right. There are a lot of things in there that are true about the situation. But there doesn't seem to be much true in there about how their deal went down or what type of partner their partner was. And he doesn't seem to have no answers when he's pushed.
No, he doesn't have an answer. And the thing about, housing, rental prices are, yeah, but that's a provincial matter. He kept saying, he says, yeah, but there's things we can do. Okay, maybe we can control CMHC, but here is the thing. The playing field is set up so that if you qualify for financing, CMHC will finance you. You cannot start picking and choosing who gets what. Okay, I understand this big corporation qualifies, but we don't want to give it to them. I'm like, hang on a second now. As much as I hate that there's about 4 companies that own 90% of the rental stock in Ottawa, I hate it because it's bad for consumers. It's bad for renters. It's bad for the working poor, the working class, and the poor. It's all bad. But the thing is, you cannot close the door to people who qualify for financing just because you don't like them. Just because you don't want, you can't do that. And this goes back to when the Liberal government under Minister McKenna handed millions out to Loblaws to buy new freezers. I didn't like it at all.
Mm-hmm.
But the program is set up so that you apply. If your application meets the criteria, you qualify. It doesn't matter if you're the biggest company in Canada or the smallest, because the government has to treat everybody equally.
Exactly. If you could show that you have a plan to reduce your GHG emissions by doing something, you get the money. That's how we got the grant to do the renovations in our home.
See, again, I don't like that this multi-billion-dollar corporation got this money, but I will not dump on the system set up, because the system is set up so that if you qualify, you get it, period. So we can't pick and choose who gets what when it comes to, well, I don't like the fact that they're a rich company. They should pay for it out of their own pocket.
But that, like you say, like this, to bring that example to the house thing, if the city of Kingston had determined, well, he didn't vote for us, so we won't give him that grant.
Exactly.
He doesn't vote the way that we want. Like this. No, it's, you have your energy assessment. Here's how your house is performing. You do the renovations. You do the energy assessment. Did you get a 25% reduction? Yes, you get the grant.
It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. And it has to remain that way. And the way Jagmeet is talking here, it's like, he wants to take away CMHC financing from big corporations because he doesn't like the big corporations. I don't like them either, bud, but guess what? You cannot summarily do that. You cannot, because then you become a dictator. You can't just say, well, they don't get it. It's set up so that if you apply and you qualify, you get the financing, period. Again, I don't like that there's only about 4 companies that own something like 90% of the rental stock in Ottawa. I don't. It's bad for us all around. But again, you can't start making rule changes to dequalify people because you simply don't like them. That is not how government is supposed to work.
I guess, like, at the worst, you could maybe do like a, like means test it, like we do for certain benefits. If you're a corporation that makes X under, has a business number over X, then you don't qualify for this. But
that's a slippery slope, right?
Well, when you exclude people, let me put it this way: when you institute income tested measures, like for example, for the Canada Child Benefit, if anybody wanted to protest that somehow, you would have to get a whole bunch of people, file a class action lawsuit, bring it to court to see whether it's constitutional. The biggest corporations in the lands actually have that budget.
Yes. Yeah. So guess what? It's not going to change a damn thing.
So maybe they would lose.
Maybe.
I guess, but they would have the money to actually bring it in court and tie it up for a few years.
Sticking with Jagmeet putting his foot in his mouth.
But that was bad, right?
That was terrible.
And glossily, it looked good. He didn't seem to be rattled in his answers. Like things were flowing, whatnot. But it's like, again, these are one of these things where if you say really dumb and inconsistent shit, but with a calm voice like this, that actually sounds good. Until you stop and think about it.
Wait a second now. Wait a second now.
Wait, what? Did you just say that calmly and? Oh, girl.
Well, like I said, sticking with Jagmeet putting his foot in his mouth, I'm going to put this on the screen.
Yeah.
Because this is like, oh, you've got to be kidding me. For those of you who are listening, NDP used stock video from Russia weeks after decrying the Tories for doing the same. And they're not Tories, by the way.
No.
Stop calling them that. They're a Reform Party with a new name called Cons. Conservative Party of Canada. They're not Tories. They never have been. But let's just scroll down here and take a look at what this story says. The New Democrats used a stock image from Russia in a recent video weeks after the party criticized the Conservatives for doing the same. On Wednesday, NDP leader Jagmeet Singh announced in a video message that he was ending the supply and confidence deal with the Liberal government while accusing Conservative policies of hurting Canadians, including retirees. The video then flashes to a stock video of 2 seniors sitting at a table looking at their laptop. The Canadian press independently verified from several stock image sites, including Getty Images, that the video originated from Russia. The two seniors are also featured in photographs on a website for a Russian university, which says they are faculty members there. Now, here's what they say. We obtained the image from a North American stock image service, the NDP said in a statement. Nowhere did the service mention where the video was taken. We'll take better care in the future. The NDP video remains up on all their social platforms.
Of course.
Look, the Canadian press independently verified it from several stock image sites.
Yes.
Why couldn't they do that?
We're fighting for vulnerable Canadians. 2 university professors from Russia. It's hot. Not the working class Joe there, right?
No. They done messed up again.
It's like, do all these parties say their videos to the same company for this? We need some stock footage inserted here.
They hired somebody very young who is able to do things very quickly on the internet without the knowledge or expertise or wisdom of an older person who's been there, done that, and seen the mistakes. And they're just letting these, and I'm not dumping on a young person. It's just you don't have the wisdom to know. You don't have the experience.
But the party doesn't have the verification mechanisms.
Clearly.
Those should be there. It's like, new rule. If you are a Canadian politician making a video of some kind and you need some B-roll footage, capture the frickin' B-roll footage yourself. You have a comms team. Give someone a video camera. Find 2 old people that would be willing to sit on the table and who vote NDP, who would love to be in your video. Film them for 20 to 30 seconds. Get them to sign a release. Maybe pay them for their work as talent. And then put it in your damn video. Stop being so goddamn freaking cheap and lazy. There's 41 million people in the country. Surely you can find 2 people who are willing to be in your video.
It's not rocket surgery.
God.
Yeah.
If you're going to talk about the Rockies, in some point in your job, you are going to be in Alberta. Send someone out, rent a car, and grab some B-roll footage of Rockies. You know what? We're in Alberta. Let's get some B-roll footage of the Rockies. We'll probably need it at some point. We're in Vancouver. Let's get some pictures of the ocean. We'll probably need it at some point. We're in the Maritimes. Let's get a photo of a lighthouse. We'll probably need it at some moment. We're in Ottawa. Let's get the photo of Parliament. Let's not try to pass the Parliament in Prague.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, man. It's not that hard. You crisscross the country on our dime already. Just capture some images while you're at it.
It's not that difficult.
Jeez. Or at least go to a Canadian-based stock footage company.
They do exist.
Or specify in your search that you want, no, not any mountains, the actual Rockies.
Yeah.
Somebody somewhere around the world has gotten some footage.
There's guaranteed somebody somewhere has footage. Hell, I'll sell you some of mine.
Holy crap on a cracker. But again, it's like, trust us to make your life better, even though we're not meticulous enough to make sure that the people that we illustrate as Canadians in our videos are actually Canadians.
It's just.
But trust us, we'll make sure that the senior home that Grandma and Grandpa go to is a good one. We'll be meticulous about that. Wink. Yeesh. All right, kids and cups. Do we have a show, Mr. Grizzly?
We do indeed.
Yes. Once again, I think we have to wrap because I would really like to spend some time talking about our exceptional Paralympians. But hopefully, we'll you know what? We'll talk about it on the podcast.
Tomorrow. We have a pubcast tomorrow. For those of you who are unaware, we do have a pubcast. It will be taking place in, it's going to be our first on-the-road pubcast.
On the road again? Well, not again, on the road for the first time.
I'm driving down to Kingston, picking up the rental car in the morning, loading up the equipment and heading down. Hopefully we can go live by 1 p.m. It all depends on travel time and setup time, and there's a lot of pieces of the puzzle to assemble. But I will be in Kingston tomorrow. We will have a pubcast, and here's hoping it goes well because we're setting up in a new place. It's our first on-the-road pubcast. So if you are in the Kingston area and want to come down and join us, feel free. We'll announce where we are once we go live. Keeping it a secret until then because we like to surprise.
We're not keeping it a secret. I've already announced it.
Oh, you did? Oh, I didn't know that.
Online.
No.
Yes. So it'll be at the Tiranog Pub. It's 200 Ontario Street in Kingston, right by Confederation Park, right by the lake. Unfortunately, we have to apologize for the late delay in announcing it, but we got the venue confirmation yesterday.
Yeah.
So we were hopeful, and it was the third venue we asked. So we had to shop around to find a place that was able to accommodate us and willing, of course, because not everybody wants to be associated with a political show.
Yeah. Although the podcast is not political, but our show is.
But our brand is.
Our brand is, yeah.
But fortunately, we have. I had a friend. Alex informed me that we had a friend that does work often and work with the Tiranon Bog Irish pub. So he was able to arrange that for us. And now, at least now, we have a venue. If ever we should do it again in Kingston, where we can give you more notice, and hopefully, eventually, we'll be able to get to more places as well. But yes, our first on the road. So tomorrow, hopefully starting 1 p.m., 1 to 5, 6-ish, for what we go around. But please do join us. All pub chat, no politics, no religion, and we'll take some time celebrating our Paralympians, who I don't know right now because there's more competition, but as of yesterday, by the time I went to bed, we're 1 medal away from equaling our medal count from the last Paralympics, which means 2 more medals. We surpass it, which will be the first time in 4 or 5 Paralympics that we have more medals than the time before, because as we mentioned, it wasn't that our team wasn't as good, but more of the world was joining in, and now that we sort of seem to have most of the countries in the world, now people are going to find their spots. But for some reason, the golds now are coming in. So last time I checked, I think we were at 6 gold, which is more gold than we had in Tokyo.
Mm-hmm.
So we had 5. So 1 medal less than Tokyo at the bedtime last night, but 1 gold more, and 3 more days of competition. So our athletes, love you. You are tearing it up, and we are here for it. All right. Kids and Cubs, that's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. We hope that you love listening to us because we love making this for you. Remember, sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless. So please tell your peeps and poops all about us. And if you would like to make sure that you don't miss an episode, you don't have to, because we have the Ray Girl, who very generously supported our pod page. If you're listening, that's podpage.com/the True North Eager Beaver, lowercase letters, with a hyphen between each one of those words. And if you scan that QR code underneath my chin, that will bring you to that page. So you click subscribe there. When we have something fresh off the inbox, fresh off the bandwidth, it comes directly to your inbox. If you would like to support us in other ways, Kits and Cubs, then you need to make like Kit Elaine and surf on down to there you go. Have a beyond awesome day, everyone. And remember to smash the button before you leave. And you can do that at the True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated page on our YouTube. Like, share, and subscribe are the buttons there for you to click. Please do it. Makes us happy. And you always make sure that our content, you get alerted to our content. And if you would like to support us in other ways, the QR code by Mr. Grizzly's head will bring you to our coffee page, which is our tip jar. If you like what we do, would like to encourage us to do more, anything you can contribute is very, very welcome and appreciated. And if you cannot contribute, the gift of your attention is the gift that we cherish the most. Our coffee page can be found at ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, lowercase letters, all in one word. And if you would like us to hear from you, then you write to us at truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com, or at our Twitter feed at TrueEager, our Facebook page, True North Eager Beaver, or leave a comment on our YouTube page. Because democracy is something that you do. By-elections are coming up on the 16th in Elmwood, Transcona, and La Salle-Villemar-Verdun, a by-election in Ontario for the provincial legislature, is coming up on the 19th in the Bay of Quinte. And of course, nominations close on the 19th for Ward 15 in Toronto. So, and I believe the vote there is in October, if I'm not mistaken. So please do what you need to do to participate in democracy there. Mr. Grizzly, do you have some words of wisdom, please?
Yeah, I have some words of wisdom. Well, you know, the thing is this, and here's the thing. I need everybody that is, sorry, there's things going sideways on my computer here. There we go. That's better. I need everybody to understand something, and this is key to understand. It's a very difficult time that we're living in. I'm well aware of this. You're well aware of this. We now have more information that may lead us to believe that some members of our government may be participating in helping to destabilize democracy in the Western world, including here in Canada. As this evidence comes out, we will cover it more and more and give you more ideas. And that there are things pointing to, yeah, it looks like that might very well be the case. We certainly know that there are bad people who are in cyber media who have been pro-Russia for a long time. And we know why. They've been getting paid for it. Try not to let that destroy you and rejoice in the fact that these people who have been doing us harm are now, many of them are backpedaling on what they've stated because they realize they might face prison time. In the end, good always wins. It always does. It's just sometimes it takes a long time to get there. And, well, we need to have patience because, I mean, sure, it's a virtue, but sometimes we just need to be patient and know that things do work out for the best in the long run. If you are on the side of good, if you are on the right side of history, things do work out. It's a long, slow process sometimes, and it can be very frustrating. So try not to let it get you down. Rejoice in the fact that this news has come to light and the bad players are about to be punished for their bad deeds.
Grab your popcorn.
You're going to need it. Oh, yeah.
Mr. Grizzly, please cue the cock.
I can do that once I
we'll
find
be back for the Easter egg.
Well, there we go. Okay, here we go.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music. All right. First of all, I got some news from Kit Swanky Frankie. So sorry to hear that you didn't get the job you were going for, my friend. But remember, it's like auditions when you're an actor, right? You just got to keep on going, putting yourself out there. The more you do interviews, the better you get at it, the better it happens. Somebody will find you. You got to kiss 1,000 frogs before you meet a prince.
Unfortunately.
Right? So stay in the game. Stay in the game. It doesn't necessarily mean anything about you, right?
Exactly.
So, but keep plugging away, my friend. I know it's going to happen for you.
It's not a question of if, it's a question of when.
It's a question of when, right? And you know what? Sometimes rejection is the good Lord's protection.
Yeah, there's truth to that. I mean, it might be difficult in the moment, but it's like in the long run, it usually works out for the best.
Yep.
One door closes, another one opens.
Yes, just ask Goldie Gimma. Oh, sorry.
No.
That's mean. That's mean. That's mean.
Nope, we're not doing
That's
that.
mean. That's mean. Okay, Mr. Grizzly. Since we're talking, just before we go, I do want to do one thing with Paralympics because there was 2 gold medals yesterday.
Mhm.
So we now have 4 multiple medalists. We have Nicholas Bennett, who has 3. Aurélie Rivard, who has 3. She now has a full set because she picked up a gold yesterday.
Mhm.
Brent Lakatos has 2. And Tess Routliff, again, Aaron Routliff's sister,
Mhm.
who plays with Aaron Routliff plays with Gabriella Dabrowski in doubles, even though she plays for New Zealand, but her sister swims for Canada. She's got 2 as well. So we have 4 multiple medalists. But here, I just want to show a clip. Devin Hooo did an interview with Alison Lang, who's with our women's sitting volleyball team. And she was talking about what the Paralympics mean. And this answer is so freaking perfect.
Agreed.
No notes.
Been asked countless times lately, why aren't the Olympics and Paralympics together? Before they were to ever mesh together, there is a Paralympic movement now that needs to happen. The Paralympics, the word para doesn't mean paraplegic, it means parallel. So it runs parallel to the Olympics, which is crucial. So it's of equality, and us as Paralympians have gone through tremendous hurdles, whether it's accidents, illnesses, anybody can become disabled at any moment in time. And so I think if we are to accept and acknowledge athletes as they are and the way their bodies allow them to move, society will become more inclusive and accessible as a whole. So we're not just doing this for ourselves or for Canada. I'm going to get emotional, but we're doing it for young athletes, like when I was a child and I didn't have a role model and I didn't know I could become an elite athlete and represent my country. There's a greater meaning there for all kids to feel included and know that they can aspire to do great things.
Damn.
And she did not stutter.
Nope. Damn.
This is why I support the movement.
Yeah. Like, damn.
She rocks. 3:30 p.m. Women's basketball semifinal, wheelchair basketball.
Okay.
Tune in.
I'll see you guys tomorrow around 1 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Around 1 p.m.
I still can't wait. I'm so excited.
This is our first touring podcast.
Road trip.
We'll see ya.